The Sleeping Beauty.
In a kingdom of sunlit valleys and green rolling hills, there lived a king and queen whose only sadness was that they had no child. For many long years they wished for a son or a daughter, until at last, to the great joy of the entire realm, the queen gave birth to a baby girl. The castle bells rang out for a solid week, and the king, so overcome with happiness, declared a christening feast more magnificent than any the kingdom had ever known. He invited all his friends, family, and the most important people of the land. Most notably, he invited the 12 wise women of the kingdom, beings who lived in the hidden places of the forest and understood the deep magic of the world. For each of these 12 guests, the king ordered a magnificent place-setting, with plates, knives and forks all wrought from the purest polished gold. The day of the christening was glorious. The great hall of the castle was filled with music and laughter. One by one, 11 of the wise women came forward to bestow their magical gifts upon the infant princess, who lay in a cradle of carved ivory. "I give you the gift of beauty," said the first, and a shimmer of light passed over the child. "I give you the gift of virtue," said the second. "I give you a kind heart," said the third. "I give you a voice that will sing like a nightingale," said the fourth. And so it went on, with each fairy granting the princess a wonderful quality that would ensure she grew up to be loved by all. Just as the 11th fairy had given her gift, the great doors of the hall flew open with a deafening crash. A sudden biting wind swept through the room, extinguishing half the candles and making the tapestries billow like frightened ghosts. In the doorway stood a tall, gaunt figure in robes the colour of a deep bruise, leaning heavily on a twisted blackthorn staff. It was the 13th wise woman, the one who lived alone on the desolate moors, and who, in the king's haste, had been forgotten. Her face was a mask of fury. "You had only 12 golden plates, I see, so you thought I was not worthy of an invitation?" The king and queen began to stammer their apologies, but she silenced them with a sharp gesture. She strode towards the cradle, her eyes burning with a cold fire. "I too have a gift for the princess," she sneered. "On her 16th birthday, she shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel, and she will fall down dead." A collective gasp of horror filled the hall. The wicked fairy cackled, a dreadful sound, then turned and vanished as abruptly as she had appeared. The queen collapsed into tears, clutching her baby. But then the 12th wise woman, who had yet to give her gift, stepped forward. Her face was grave, but her voice was calm and clear. "I cannot undo this wicked curse entirely," she said softly. "The evil magic is too strong. But I can soften it. The princess shall not die. Instead, she will fall into a deep sleep that will last for 100 years, and when that time has passed, she will be woken by a kiss." Though 100 years' sleep was a terrible fate, it was better than death. The king, desperate to protect his daughter, immediately issued a royal decree. Every single spinning wheel and spindle in the entire kingdom was to be brought forth and burned. Great bonfires were lit in every town square, and the air filled with the smoke of the forbidden objects. For 16 years, the curse was all but forgotten. The princess grew up to be everything the fairies had promised. graceful, intelligent, and so full of warmth and kindness that everyone who met her loved her instantly. On the morning of her 16th birthday, the castle was abuzz with preparations for a grand celebration. Left to her own devices for a short while, the princess decided to explore the parts of the castle she had never seen. She climbed staircase after staircase until she came to a small, heavy door at the very top of the highest tower. Intrigued, she turned the rusty key and stepped inside. There, in a dusty little room, sat a very old woman, bent over a strange wooden contraption from which she was drawing out a long thread. It was a spinning wheel, the last one in the kingdom, hidden away and forgotten for years.
"Good day to you, grandmother," said the princess. "What is that peculiar thing you are working with?" "I am spinning flax," the old woman replied, not looking up. The princess, who had never seen such a device, was fascinated. "And what is that little stick that dances about so merrily?" she asked, pointing to the spindle. She reached out a curious hand to touch it. The very instant her finger brushed against its sharp point, the curse was fulfilled. A wave of profound weariness washed over her. She swayed, her eyes closed, and fell gracefully onto a nearby bed, plunged into the deep, enchanted slumber. At that exact moment, the sleep spread like a silent, invisible tide throughout the entire castle. The king and queen, who had just returned to their thrones, fell asleep where they sat. The courtiers in the great hall, the guards on the battlements, the cooks in the kitchen with their hands still in the dough, the stable boys with the horses, the dogs on the stone floors, and even the flies on the window panes, all fell into a deep and dreamless sleep. The fire in the great hearth ceased to flicker, and a profound silence descended upon the world within the castle walls. Outside, a great hedge of thorny briar roses began to grow. It grew thicker and taller with every passing year, its branches tangling together into an impassable wall of thorns as sharp as daggers. It enveloped the entire castle, hiding even the tops of its tallest towers from view. The place became a legend, a ghost story whispered by the local people about a sleeping beauty who lay enchanted within. Many a prince, hearing the tale, tried to fight his way through the briar hedge, but none could succeed. They were caught fast in the thorns and perished miserably. 100 years passed. One day, a young and valiant prince from a distant land was riding through the country and heard an old man telling the story of the thorn-covered castle and the beautiful princess, Rosamond, who was fated to sleep for a century. The prince felt a strange pull in his heart. "I am not afraid," he declared. "I will go and see this rose-briar princess." He rode to the castle, and as he approached, he saw that the 100 years had passed that very day. As he drew his sword and touched the great briar hedge, the thorns miraculously transformed. They softened, and great, beautiful roses bloomed all along the branches, which then parted to let him pass as if they were welcoming him. He walked through the open passage into a courtyard frozen in time. He saw the sleeping guards and the slumbering horses. He entered the great hall and saw the entire court, motionless. He roamed through the silent castle until at last he climbed the winding stairs to the tower room. There, on the bed, lay the princess, her beauty untouched by the century of sleep. She was so lovely that he could not take his eyes off her. Overcome by a feeling of great tenderness, he bent down and gently kissed her lips. At the touch of his kiss, the princess's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him
and smiled, her heart instantly filled with love. At that same moment, the entire castle began to stir. The king and queen awoke on their thrones, the fire in the hearth roared back to life, and the sounds of a living castle returned. The wicked fairy's spell was finally broken. The prince and princess fell deeply in love, and not long after, they were married in a celebration that was even grander than the christening 100 years before. And they, along with the entire kingdom, lived in great happiness for all their remaining days.